Okay, our next orientation video is on professional development, and I have reiterated in each video that you are a professional, and as a professional, you have to continue growing. You can't just become complacent. So we're always learning. As a teacher, we have to constantly learn. So you are required, depending on your level of education, to get a certain amount of hours. But what I'm going to talk about first is the same for everyone. So you are required to get, as a new employee, 15 hours of staff orientation. That is going to come in many, many different ways. These videos are some of them, meeting in person, some of them, some classroom stuff is some of it. So 15 hours of staff orientation, CPR certified, and we'll talk about that later. We have a class coming up. If you're working with infants, you will need to have SIDS, and that is a class you can take through our local partnership. And then you have to have 24 hours of health and safety training, which are some online classes that will be a later video teaching you how to set up your Pro Solutions account and get those classes knocked out. Those are some really good classes. Also, if you pay attention and, really try to learn from them, it's some really useful information. Again, as I've said in every video, this information is in your staff handbook, so you don't have to try to memorize this. You always have it to go back and look as a resource. Kind of the way we do classes here are that if it's a class, if it's professional development and it's related to, child care, and it's something you're doing for your training hours, Aha Moments will pay half of it and you pay half. And the reason we do this is because it benefits me 50% and you 50%. While you're working here, it benefits me. If you decide to leave, it benefits you. So I kind of, go in half with you on that. And a lot of times you can find free classes, but sometimes, these classes may be $20. You pay 10, I pay 10. And I will get in just a few minutes about how many hours each person will need. Just make sure if you take a class, obviously you're going to pay for the whole class up front. You're going to bring me the receipt and the certification, the certificate, and then I'll reimburse you half of that. Because if you do not pass it, I do not pay half. So, these courses are not really pass-fail. It's you just, sit through them and do the work and you get a certificate. The next thing is, I just found a mistake. We usually have these upcoming courses posted in the office, so you can, look at that schedule at any time. If you find any on your own, online or whatever, you might just want to see us and make sure it would work before you actually register for it. Going along with that, every staff member here has a binder, and in your binder we keep up with your training. Oh, this is difficult. Your training, any certificates you get, any transcripts you get. And so anytime you complete something, you need to make sure you give us a copy of it so we can record it. If you do not have credentials, and credentials is one class, EDU 119, if you do not have credentials, you are required to get 20 hours a year. If you do have credentials, you're required to get 10 hours per year, 10 training hours. And if you qualify as a director or administrator, you have to get 5 credit hours per year of training. So that you can kind of figure out what category you're in. A year goes from August to August. I would recommend kind of spacing them out and getting them done and not waiting until July and panicking because you need 20 hours. There are some courses that you can take that will get all your credits knocked out in one course. We just had an employee that did a course online for 15 hours, and so she's done because she had already had CPR this year. So that's kind of, once we sit down and do your binder together and kind of show you everything, you'll have a better idea of exactly what you need to do. There will also be a separate video, and I keep saying that, but we're trying to break it down step by step. There will be another video on how to set up your Pro Solutions and kind of get those started. Staff meetings, those are scheduled for the first Thursday of each month. We do it in different ways, as Diana said before. Sometimes we meet in person. That's necessary because we have a lot of information to go over. We might have events coming up, so we meet in person. Sometimes I do it through an email. And then sometimes, I'm sorry, that little piece is bothering me. Sometimes we, email, in person. Sometimes we go around during nap time and meet with each classroom individually. We have a staff Facebook page that we'll put announcements on. We have a Remind app that we use to send out reminders. So, we try to get creative with these staff meetings because I know it's hard to come back up here after you've been working all day, come from at 7 o'clock for a staff meeting. So I try to be aware of people's families. I want you to get to spend time with your family. But I will, at some point, it is necessary during the year for us to have a face-to-face staff meeting. We also, before our school year starts in August, we have a staff orientation that pretty much lasts the entire weekend. We do a lot of team building things. We get a lot of things in place for the new year. So that is mandatory unless you're getting married or giving childbirth. So those two, any staff meeting is, I don't know if I can use the word mandatory, but you got to have a good reason if you're not there. The new staff orientation, every new employee has to receive that. That's what you're getting right now. Congratulations. Hopefully you have already started on your qualifying letter, which is your fingerprints, background check, TB test, all the paperwork you have. You're going to have 6 weeks to kind of get your Pro Solutions health and safety training classes done. That's what I was talking about earlier. It'll be a whole separate video. And so it's overwhelming when you start because it's like, wow, am I getting a job with the FBI? I've got so much to fill out and so many steps to go through. That's why we try to break it down, make it real simple. And you can go back and watch these videos, or you can watch them one at a time and do what that video says, and then, work your way through it. So evaluations for employees, an evaluation will be done twice a year on each employee. And let me tell you how this kind of works. Evaluations are not just us walking in a classroom and checking off. We take them really serious because we want, as I said before, to grow professionally. We want to help teachers grow. We're not just here to babysit, and we really want to make sure that we are giving the teachers the resources they need, the help they need, the advice they need, the constructive criticism they need to grow as a teacher, because our students are our number one priority, and our job is to prepare them for kindergarten. So, along with our staff evaluations comes parent surveys. We send home parent surveys about, for parents to fill out about the teachers. And there's just many different questions. We take those into account. You do a self-evaluation, so you'll fill out, I call it a PDP. It's a professional development plan. But you would fill that out, kind of rating yourself and setting goals. And, then later at the end of the year, you'll get it back and you'll kind of reflect and see if you reach those goals and what you need to do next year or set new goals. So, and then the evaluation that myself or Diana does. And then we also have informal observations that we kind of walk around all the time and make notes. So-and-so's on the floor interacting with kids. So-and-so did 3 read alouds today. So-and-so implemented an amazing discipline or classroom management in, maintaining this classroom environment and not letting kids run wild. I mean, we constantly make these notes. We have a notebook, and we keep up with all of these notes as we go along so that we can use that data too. So it's not just walking in your room, sitting down and watching one lesson, because that can be misleading. So we try to use a lot of data to support what we are doing for teacher evaluations, and any pay raise you get throughout the year will be based on these evaluations. I think that is probably it for professional development. I will post the Pro Solutions and the NCID videos soon so you can get started on those classes. As I've said every time, we're just walking through the handbook. So if you are following along, this was page 11 and 12 that we were doing. And we will go on to personnel policies in just a few minutes.